Aiko used to bow and pray, "Dear God," with her stepmother before she went to bed. Aiko was abused by her stepmother. As a result, she was susceptible to the dream of being wanted by someone who seemed to want her authentically. Aiko, the little girl with the gap-toothed grin, wanted only to be loved as she was, understood, accepted completely. When gazing up at the Milky Way, she imagines the glittering and tragic separation of the weaver girl and the cowherd, Giovanni and Campanella. Her young existence is already steeped and dripping with fantasy. Wind-blown, a red graze on her forehead. She stands on the concrete curb looking like a Valentine. Your hands bleed, waiting for your mother, who would send you flower petals in a cardboard box. The bird-shaped boy with God in his eye, violated in his own innocence, could only let her down. He abused her much as her stepmother had abused her, perhaps because he had also been abused. But she clung to the honesty of his violence. It was the parallel faults of their childhoods that endeared him to her. She always claimed she'd kill him if he lied. One of Aiko's motifs is the need to pee, to relieve herself. In a kind of childlike way, perhaps, she even had nightmares wherein she sees herself in the reflection at her feet. But she was not a child anymore. Her adult teeth had all grown in. She dreamed about running away to live with her beloved and maybe a dog. He calls her stupid as a cow and forces his thumb into her slobbering mouth. Her eyelids droop. She takes it. "Do you love me? Then, I love you too." Prompted by equivalent violence, he beats and strangles Aiko's stepmother unconscious, and Aiko stabs her to death. They flee to Kagoshima in a nightmarish sequence of distrust, mutual maltreatment, and suicidal apprehension. He punches her so hard that he knocks out her front tooth. It ends when they find the town abandoned. Freedom is a heavy, wet night crouching on your shoulders. It spreads across your back, a rash, an infection, and there is the perpetual nausea of needing somehow to look past the insides of your eyelids. It was yesterday that you became a revolution, but there is never any happiness won in cutting off the arms of a throne, only freedom. Like a frog writhing in agony, his skin still boiling even though he's already leapt out of the pot he loved so much before it started killing him, and wanted to keep on loving even though he knew its intention when the stove went red. It hurts you a lot to think like that, so you emptied yourself, and now you stand under the patch of sun. I know the sun can't kill you because you had already been burned alive, and its white tendrils lick the place your hair leaves your ears bare. The empty square of sunlight on placid water. Aiko tells him that as a child, she once wished that they would love each other. How happy she was that the wish had come true. But she smiles sadly, knowing she's already too tired to be honest with herself. Let's remember each other on Tanabata, okay? A gap-toothed smile, like she's coming back down to where she'd always been meant to be. When she's finally allowed to pee, it's a puddle dripping down her legs and feet as she dangles like a wind chime from the gutter. The bird-shaped boy carries her limp and exposed body on his back, abandoning her later. Aiko wished in her last days to be remembered, or at least to not be forgotten. On Tanabata, the boy who stabbed God out of his eye wonders if he ever really knew her at all. She was much more ordinary than he was hoping she would be. The last panel of the story is the dreamlike image of Aiko in the dress she wore to her death, in a vast open meadow under the blue sky, with her hands held out and a big, excited grin on her youthful face. She is on the other side of the river. When I slide the flower behind your ear, saying nothing, tuck it there, barely brushing your honey hair, you smile in a knowing I've almost forgotten to recognize, and spark a cigarette from inside your skirt pocket. Like incense, exhale a wraith, and your lips close over gap teeth and around the cigarette, and your wrist turns over to face the sky. The reflection beautiful in a middle of the night sleepy live madness way, a knowing herself way. Pure round eyes and a nose and a mouth in the lamplight. Her cheeks glowing me permanence. She does not linger, except in my dreams, where I carry her eternal red shrine.